Hi, this is Joelyn from WonHeart TV, and I've got a special guest today with us. But before we go there, I want you to take a look at our WonHeart TV on YouTube channel. We've got a lot of wonderful guests that I've interviewed, and you're going to be pleased with a lot of the information they have. I'm about health and well-being, as many of these people are, but it's not just about the heart, the mind, and the body. It's also about our planet. I've got something on there for children as well. So please check out our YouTube channel called WonHeart TV. And then we're starting a brand new Patreon channel. I think you're going to want to join that because we're going to bring you a little bit deeper content where we can get, I think we're going to get deeper where we can really find out how to get started. Maybe have some of our guests do something special for us all. So stay tuned. Look us up on Patreon, WonHeart TV, and YouTube, of course, and sign our email list at oneheartinfo.org. Okay, so this guest I have, I am so excited. She said yes, being interviewed. And so I've got with me today, Miss Zahrah Sita. Zahrah, how are you today?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Super happy to be here and share this with you.
Yes, yes. Well, you come with a plethora of goodies, but for I'm just going to read a little something about you if you don't mind it. And
Yeah.
that is you are a passionate health enthusiast, detox expert, which I really want to get to today, wellness and life coach, retreat facilitator, a writer. You used a multitude of ancient traditions in the healing modalities, such as traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic therapies, bodywork, neurofeedback. Boy, you're going to have to explain that to some of us. Energy healing, nutrition, one of my favorites to talk about. Detoxification, fasting. That's something I want to do. So maybe we can, if we have time, we can talk about that. Of course, plant medicines. I know there's so much to all of this and we've lost it. So Zahrah, oh, and one biggie, how you healed yourself of cancer. So we're going to get to all of that. But first of all, Zahrah, tell the folks about yourself and why you have so many hats. I mean, wow.
Oh, yeah, why I have so many hats. I don't know. I'm a curious person and I've never really been able to fit in a box very well. I have a mind that wants to understand and wants to know things, and so that has definitely fueled a lot of my study and my motivation to learn more. But more than anything, it really was my own health. I was raised in an environment by people that had a lot of health consciousness. I had people around me growing food and making medicines from plants and teaching me about natural ways to heal myself. You know, my mom ran a health food store when I was younger, and so I was blessed with this energy around me, and it was much of the environment I grew up in. But despite all of those good things bringing me up and all of that, I had health issues starting in my late teens. I actually believe it was triggered by having the Epstein-Barr virus in my teens that then later kind of manifested into other things, autoimmune issues and allergies and all kinds of health issues going on in my body. And so I was actually really wanting to have a career in the performing arts. And that was my original kind of venture out into the world, mostly through dance and through theater and through other things. And so I was on stage a lot. And then in my early 20s, I started having all kinds of health issues, and my body was literally breaking down and failing me. And I went to all these doctors. I was living away from family at the time. And so I was seeking, medical help, medical advice, and just time after time, I was misdiagnosed. I was kind of given wrong direction. People didn't understand what was happening to me. They would tell me that, I was just stressed out or needed psychological help. And so I really took it on myself to figure out how I could gain my health back and how I could get my body functioning again and how I could heal myself. And so that That is really where it all started. And, that brought me first into the realm of both detoxification and Chinese medicine, inspired me to go to school for traditional Chinese medicine and start learning that work even deeper. And then from there, like I said, I just have a very curious mind, and I always want to know more and kind of do better at what I do. And so I just didn't stop. I just kept taking classes and finding mentors and going to schools and things like that to continue my kind of buildup of of skills and talents and abilities in the realm of the healing arts, and then my own healing journey, which took many, many, many years, and in a sense is still going on.
Right. Do you have an idea of where whatever happened to you might have occurred, or when that happened to you, you say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that, from a young age, I had some things in my diet and my regular diet that my body just doesn't like, and that might have created some things. I don't think it was the bulk of my issues. I definitely have like dairy and gluten sensitivities, and that was, even though I was eating this organic diet and a lot of healthy things in it, it did include those foods. So I think that was a hindrance, but I don't think it was like the foundation of what was going on with me. And I think there were other things that are still yet to be revealed. I think some of it's emotional trauma, things that I went through early in childhood. But then again, like I said, I got Epstein-Barr virus, which is also known as mono or mononucleosis. And it's in the same family as shingles and chickenpox. And typically when we get it, like as a teenager, it can definitely be harsh. Like I was actually hospitalized for several days with it. My body reacted in all kinds of ways, and then I recovered. But the thing with that particular virus is it turns into a retrovirus and it stays in the body. It doesn't leave. And so it can do some really secret kind of behind the scenes damage to your metabolics and to your immune system and things like that. So I really believe that was the beginning. And then if I fast forward to when I started having some really severe health problems, like when I was in my early 20s, well, I was active and I was exercising and I always ate fairly well, but yet I was not sleeping enough. I was working several jobs plus performing in a dance company, and so I think I was stressed, honestly. And that, I think, kind of allowed the weaknesses and the frailties that I started experiencing to kind of come in more. And my system was just vulnerable. And I think that I tend to, for whatever reason, have a bit of a vulnerable system. I'm very sensitive to things. And I have the AB blood type, which is said to be one of the more sensitive with their immune systems. Like we have what they call a friendly immune system. Like we have a tendency to let things in more. So I've had to learn over time how to build up my immune system even more and take extra precautions so I can really thrive and stay well.
Well, I think that's a guiding point right there in terms of today. So many people are unhealthy, would you say? I mean,
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah.
unhealthy. Not just 2020 and the COVID issue that took us all by surprise, but more or less people were leading up to that in their health. Would you say?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, I have my own ideas and perspectives about this whole COVID pandemic, as it's called. Honestly, for a long time, and I would say this to people, and I saw it coming, not necessarily in the way that it all played out, but I could see that there would be a time when something would come along and really show us the actual truth about human health on earth at this time. And the truth is, most people aren't as healthy as perhaps they thought, and health as we thought it was is not what we thought it was. And so here comes something that is just kind of like, the icing on the cake, the cherry on top. It's the one thing to kind of tip that domino game so they all start falling down. And people they're harboring a lot of toxins. There's so many things in our environment, as well as in our mental attitudes, stress, emotional traumas, things like that people have held in and not dealt with and not cleansed their bodies. And so it just takes this one last thing to kind of shift it. And so, I don't think that the majority of people are very healthy at all. I think that there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done.
I think if you ask people who've lived a long time, a lot of them will say that it's their health, keeping their health. If I had only known not to abuse my body, or different things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I know for me, my turning point as well was back in 2014 when I was burning from the inside out, literally. I was bloated. My eyes had bags. I wasn't even concerned about it. I was just in a tailspin, running a nonprofit, eating horribly, uh, uh, just toxic kind of
Mhm.
things going on in my life. And I went to doctors and they really didn't know what to do for me. And I was flabbergasted. I was heartbroken here. I wanted to know that they were going to cure me,
Yeah.
even to the point of taking whatever medication.
Mhm.
And what I discovered was I got tested and I too was very sensitive. I'm also a musician, by the way. I didn't know if you knew that. So
No, I didn't know that.
I love the arts as well. And, I was always a nervous kid. My stomach was a nervous wreck, even when I was little. And I think it just caught up with me. And then the bad eating, then finding out that we're so poisoned by our foods as well. And we're not taught to eat healthy at all. So
Wow.
that brings me to a point of I know food, and let's talk about nutrition first of all,
Yeah.
because this is like I love it. Can
Yeah.
you tell us why eating healthy and what that means to you? What does that mean to you? Sorry.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to touch on because I personally believe that nutrition is our foundation. It's the foundation of physical health, what we are putting into our bodies. So if you can think of your body like a vehicle. I mean, I know that we're not a machine. we're much better than a machine. But if you can see it as a vehicle that your spirit and your soul live within, and that this really is just um, a shell in a sense, a
Right.
very beautifully designed, incredible shell. But the real truth of who we are, the essence of who we are, is that spirit and that soul. So if we think of this as a vehicle, and as anybody who drives or has had a vehicle knows, and you don't even have to have a vehicle to understand this, there's some very specific things to help keep your vehicle running well. You have to put the proper fuel in it, whether that's gasoline or diesel or however it is that your vehicle is fueled. You have to put the right oils in it to keep the engine working right. All the different compartments have to have the right stuff in it. And so the same is with our body, and that starts with nutrition. So if you put sugar in the gas tank of your vehicle, it's not going to run very well. If you put cotton candy into the oil the oil reservoir, your engine, it will not last very long. And the same thing goes with our bodies. Now, the thing with our bodies is they are actually very resilient, and they are created to self-regenerate and to self-heal. So you might not see complete engine failure overnight with your body, but over time, if you continue to put the wrong foods in there, meaning things that just don't provide nutrition, or things that actually interfere with the way your body functions and interferes with your optimal health, then it's going to start to break down. That's just how it is. It's pure cause and effect, the science of our physiology. So nutrition isn't just this good idea, to eat well and you might have cleaner skin, or you might, have a better body weight. It's so much more than that. It's actually how your liver functions, your kidneys function, your heart, your brain, and how they all communicate with each other to make the whole thing work well. So nutrition, yes, I'm a very big proponent of good nutrition. It's something that I teach and talk about and live by and really, really believe in.
Well, when you talk nutrition, now I heard a saying, and I live by it myself, and that is when you go in the grocery store, you want to stay on the outside and
Yeah,
buy your produce and your meat. Everything like of that is
yeah,
of value for your body.
yeah,
And then there's the center aisles, which are usually in boxes. That's a telltale sign of
yeah, yeah.
um, nutritional. What do you say about that? And what about organic versus regular? What are your thoughts on that?
I strongly advise people to eat as much organic as possible. If you can eat 100% organically sourced foods, go for it. Because the truth is, if they're not organic, there's a good chance that there's been agrochemicals, pesticides, fungicides, all those types of things used in the growing of that food. It also could be, using genetically modified technologies, so genetically modified seeds, and that is just something I'm very, very against because of the evidence of that creating disease and cancer and inflammation and allergies and infertility and all kinds of things. So when it's organic, you know that it's not genetically modified. I think that each body is really unique. So I don't believe that there's like one diet for everybody, but the more fresh organic fruits and vegetables and leafy greens you can eat, the healthier you're going to be. The fats that you put in your body, you got to really consider that not all of them are the same. And so, you want to really look at what's the best quality of food I can get and how is it going to affect my internal health? Is this going to give me energy or take energy? And so there's a lot of foods out there, and I look at like the standard American diet, which is also goes with the acronyms, SAD. So it's called the SAD diet, which in a sense it's very sad. It's just so much processed and refined and white and tan foods. And I think about sometimes, so I lived in Costa Rica for over 13 years, and I just, so one area I was living out there for almost 8 years, and it was in the mountains in this area near Chiripo, a few hours out of the Central Valley. And there's a lot of coffee farms and there's a lot of agriculture and farming. It's very rural. And I had coffee farmers on either side of me, small scale coffee farms. And I'd see these guys, like my one neighbor, he was like 75, and he's hiking up the mountain every day and sometimes carrying these like huge sacks of coffee down the mountain, full of energy, full of vitality. And as I got to know him over the years, I could really see like, well, he grew up eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, and he still did that, at age 75, and now he's probably 80, and I bet he's still doing it. I haven't seen him for a few years. And he said he didn't eat breakfast. He would wait until about 10 or 11, have a small lunch type meal, and then he wouldn't eat again till dinner. And if he snacked on anything in the day, it was fruit, and he said the only beverages he drank was coffee and water. And so if I look at that, and he was very common of many of the rural farmers, the campesinos, as they're called in that area, and they also, just want to say, he got up early and he was up working on that farm by like 7 a.m, sometimes 6 a.m, but then they stop at like maybe 2 or 3, and that's it. They don't work like late into the night. And so they have a lot of time to rest, to be with family, and to do other things that they love. And I think that has a big part of it is that simple eating, a lot of fruits and vegetables. I look at that diet, they have it's changing, unfortunately, but the traditional diet, they're eating beans and rice, they're eating smaller amounts of foods, there's always vegetables on the plates, and out in the fresh air and the sunshine, doing physical work and hiking and reducing the amounts that they eat. And so, I don't think it's the absolute prescription for everybody, but it was such an example for me to see that time and time again. He was just one example of many that I've seen like that, having good nutrition and exercise and living long, healthy lives, and stronger than most young guys that I know.
Now, I found that that's what I wanted. After I had my burning from the inside out so bad, my burning mouth, burning tongue, eyelid catching, I realized when I began to feel good, when I pulled all these different things, that I was actually tested and found out I was allergic to gluten, which most of us are. The bread quality is not, the wheat is not the same as our grandparents had, because of what they've done in the fields. The milk that we drank, different things. So I think the most valuable thing now is my health and my health. I mean, I could be concerned for other people's health, and I am, and I share what I know, but it's up to them. Oprah said, yeah, I can have somebody come in and affix my food for me, but I'm the only one who puts the fork to my mouth.
Mhm.
And I always remembered that as like, it's up to us to take care of our bodies. And I'm gonna segue this into your cancer. Now, there's a lot of people that have cancer, and I'm gonna say, in what little I probably know, but I think cancer is gobbed up gunk in the body that's needs to be broken up. And maybe you can go, I hope you're going to go a lot further and deeper into it, because you healed yourself, and I don't know what cancer you had. So can you share with us your story on that, and how what you did and how you came out of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just first start by saying it's cancer is so prevalent nowadays. And I look
Yes.
back, when I was a child, both of my grandfathers passed away of cancer. And, I think that they were in their 60s, most likely, when they passed away. I actually don't know exactly how old they were, but I think they're around in their 60s. And so when I was a kid growing up, most of the people that you knew, if you met anybody or heard of anyone with cancer, it was like they were in their late 50s, 60s, 70s. And nowadays we're hearing all ages. I mean, from infants to all the years, and all the years, all the way up as high as you can go. And I have right now several friends in 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s who have been dealing with cancer. I know a lot of people with cancer, mostly because of me writing about my journey and people getting, reaching out and getting to know me and kind of growing a network, as well as the clients that I work with when I'm doing consulting and coaching and creating healing protocols for people. And then I'm a moderator in a private group that is dedicated to the healing of cancer. So I'm very in that world still, even though I no longer have cancer. And it's, I can look at it very, very simplistically. And I also can see that it's complex. And in the simplistic view, yeah, it is the stuff, like you said, the gunk that's built up in us. And there's so many things that can happen to the human body to create cancer. So there's no one cause of cancer. There's many things that contribute to it. And that can be trauma, emotions, stress, all those things can impact the development of cancer. What you're eating, foods, like if you're eating a purely junk diet and it's high in, refined and processed foods and genetically modified foods and artificial ingredients, that could be a contributing factor. Chemical exposure, environmental pollution. If you're in an area where there's been a lot of environmental pollution, perhaps you have lead in your water, or you've been in fire zones where you're being exposed to high amounts of particulates, or whatever it is. There's so many things, radiation poisoning. And so for that reason, yeah, stuff builds up. And what starts to happen is it disrupts our metabolic system. It can mutate. We can have mutations happening in our body to our own DNA, and we can have our immune system severely impaired. And then if you have, let's say a high level of heavy metals in your system, or parasites or fungus or mold, it starts to degrade things and weaken the system, so that a cancer then develops. Cancer develops when there's a weakness in the system. And in a simplistic view, we could go on and on and on. There's thousands of cancer cures out there. And I would say many of them really do work, but not always for the same person, and not always in the same way. And so that's why it's good to include a holistic approach. But ultimately, we're looking at fixing the metabolics and fixing the immune system, boosting the immune system, oxygenating the body. And when that happens, the body starts to heal on its own. So, like I said, there's many, many ways. And so when I share my story of healing cancer, I just want people to know that it's not the ultimate way. It's not the only way. There's many ways. And that's why it's important for us to come forward and share our stories. And so I was diagnosed in, what was it, 2009, early 2009, with an advanced stage of malignant melanoma. And I had a tumor on my face right here, kind of a large tumor that at first I opted to have surgery. and I was still debating what to do beyond surgery. And I had a big scar, like from here to here, where they went way in and removed it. And then about 6 weeks later, the tumor started to grow back in 2 spots, but in the same area. And I met with those doctors again, and they were, talking to me about chemo and radiation and telling me, this is one of the most aggressive forms of cancer. You don't want to leave this unchecked. It's not just in your face, it's in your blood, it's in your system. You got to do something. And they're basically saying, like, if you don't do these things that we're saying, you could probably be dead in the next year. And it wasn't the first time I've had well-meaning doctors present something to me with this kind of, I think, unintended, but definitely a scare tactic that I've walked away from. I remember the first time was I had developed very severe ovarian cysts that it ended me in the ER a number of times because of the way it was impacting my nervous system, and I couldn't walk. And finally they figured out what was going on, and they're telling me about this surgery I had to have to ever be functional again. And I watched the video on the surgery, and I was like, and I walked out. And that was really that moment, like that day, my life changed. I found a book actually at a bookstore. It literally kind of fell off the shelf in front of me that brought me on a journey of self-healing. And so, I listened to these doctors tell me this stuff about cancer and what I needed to do and all that. And I walked away and I prayed and I meditated, and I realized that I needed to do it my way. And that's the way it's always been for me personally, because I'm the one who lives in this body and I'm the one that knows it the best. And I definitely believe in mentors and good doctors and all of those things. I coach people. So yeah, I'm there for people who need help. And there's many of us out there doing that on different levels. But I didn't agree with their treatment for me. It didn't feel right for me. I knew too much about the long-term effects of chemo and radiation to feel okay with that being my kind of primary first choice beyond surgery. And the surgery didn't work for me, so I needed to do something. And because detoxification, holistic detoxification, has been a very big part of me regaining health over and over again in my life and upgrading my health over and over again, that was where I started. So I did a lot of liver and gallbladder detoxification by doing liver and gallbladder cleanses. I looked to the Gerson protocol, Dr. Max Gerson, who helped many people heal of cancer in the 40s and 50s. And then, so I took pieces of that. I took pieces of a lot of things. Like I was juicing a lot every day. I followed a primarily raw vegan diet that was sugar-free, salt-free, and very low fat, and very specific foods. Like I chose my foods very carefully. Everything had to have a purpose. And let's see what else. I did ozone therapy. I did 3 months of something called MMS. It's also known as the miracle mineral solution. Jim Humboldt, he kind of popularized that. And I did a lot of herbs, mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, herbs, certain supplements, fasting, praying, earthing. I was living in the middle of the rainforest in Costa Rica, which I think was a huge, huge part of my healing. The ability to be there with those ancient trees and grounded into nature. I was growing many of the herbs that I was using, such as moringa and holy basil and turmeric. I was juicing turmeric. And so it was all of these things, I think together, alkalizing my body, really boosting my immune system, rejuvenating my health, detoxing my organs, and then also introducing all of these things like the mushrooms and the herbs and the supplements that were very active against cancer, anti-tumor factors and anti-cancer and all these things. So I believe for me, and plus the oxygenating ozone, it's a wonderful thing. And it really, really helped me a lot. Since then, if I fast forward to now, and I have people that, I'm coaching and working with that are going through cancer, I've learned a lot more. There's more that I would add to that. There's more that I recommend to people. The cannabis medicines, I've definitely learned a lot since then. I had the opportunity in California a couple of years ago to spend some time with some cannabis doctors and cannabis nurses, people that are trained in using cannabis for healing, specifically cancer. learned a lot, walked away with a lot of information that I think is really useful in the use of both THC THC cannabis medicines, such as like the FICO, the full extract cannabis oil, or also just using the CBD oils. Those are very important. And looking back, I would add that in now if I were facing another cancer diagnosis. There's a dog dewormer or an animal dewormer that's very low toxicity, but has a very unique ability to cut off the feeding mechanism and basically kill cancer, and that's fenbendazole. That's another one I definitely recommend people to. It's very
Can you
safe,
say that
low
again?
toxicity.
What was
and
that?
so there's fenbendazole. It's FENBENDAZOLE. It's often referred to as Fenben. You can get it over the counter. There's companies I can refer people to get a really high, pure quality fenbendazole for healing cancer. Totally legal. And, all the studies and all the documentation on that show that it's very, very safe, even long-term, even people taking it for years. And so those are things. There's a formula called poly-MVA that is a unique blend of minerals, and whatever way that they formulate it and do it, it has been shown to be very, very helpful at healing the mitochondria, which basically our health and our longevity, it depends on the health of our mitochondria. So it's been very useful against cancer. And there's all kinds of things. I mean, there's so many different things useful for healing cancer. And the thing with chemo and radiation is, yes, they can go in there and they can wipe out the cancer. And there's a lot that they also wipe out more than cancer. And the thing with it is that chemo and radiation don't get the cancer stem cells, the kind of like deep base of the cancer. And so if you wipe out the cancer cells and you wipe out the tumors and all that, there's a good chance. And this is why we see that within several years, quite often, there's this 5-year marker that happens, that quite often the cancer has come back with a vengeance. They didn't get the cancer stem cells. And when they wiped out all the good bacteria and they hit the immune system so hard with that cancer and radiation, it leaves them they might be cancer-free showing up on the test, but they're weakened in a certain way. So unless they do some good cleansing and healing and rejuvenating their system, there's a very good chance that cancer is going to come back. That's why I don't promote it.
Yeah. And I don't either. I would choose I heard about the Gerson Institute a long time ago. It was phenomenal information. And a lot of it had to do with juicing and really shutting the body down from all that ugly food stuff that people eat and getting to basically pure juicing, not just your regular countertop juicer that you can buy at May Company for $80, kind of like what I did, and juice those carrots and apples. But we're talking about a $2,000 or $3,000.
Yeah, I think they're using the Norwalk press, probably at the Gerson Institute. It's an amazing yeah, definitely. And you can get good ones for less than the Norwalk, but you do want a good juicer. Also the Hippocrates Institute and Ann Wigmore, they've also shown, the wheatgrass juicing and going on, a raw vegan diet. It's not meaning that that's going to be your diet for the rest of your life, but to accelerate the healing, it's so good. That juicing and those raw foods, they
I
really
think
help.
people, when maybe, I don't know if this is true, but when they get that bill of health after they've done chemo and such, do a high majority of them go back to eating the way they used to? I mean, remember that. I mean,
well, the truth is some of them never change. And that's something I'm really trying to raise awareness about. I recently wrote an article called The Cancer Diet, What to Eat When Healing. And I've been sharing that in some of the different groups and trying to circulate that. Because what I'm finding is people, they might have found out about some alternative ways to heal, like using fenbendazole or cannabis, and they're in these different groups talking about it. And they're even seeing, some success. And then they start, asking questions, and I realized they have no idea about nutrition, or, you know, they're sharing what they eat. And I'm realizing, like, wait a second, like, they have no idea, and no fault of their own. No one's ever taught them. Their oncologist never mentioned it. Many of the oncologists say, just eat whatever you want. It doesn't matter, which is so not true, because cancer, and not just cancer, viruses, mold, bacteria, microbes of all kinds feed on sugar, on refined sugars. Now, I'm not talking fruit sugars, that's a whole different field. So, but sugars, refined sugars, concentrated sugars, even things like maple syrup, which is a healthy sweetener, they can still feed on this. They also can feed on certain things like eggs, for example. Viruses grow in lab dishes with eggs introduced to them. So, you know, we got to understand what feeds the sicknesses that we have. And we can use nutrition as medicine then, you know, by avoiding those foods or adding in the foods that would then help heal those conditions.
Yeah, and what's scary these days, I'll add, is that I read a long time ago when I was healing that doctors spend about this much of their whole studies on nutrition, if anything at all.
Yeah,
so,
if that at all, if that.
Yeah, and so when they say go back to whatever you were eating before, you're fine, they have no clue. And we have given that power over. That's the problem. I don't think people really realize how much we have given over to our doctors. Not that if I was in a horrible accident, Zarah, and was laying on the ground, cement floor somewhere, and hit my head, whatever. And I would go to the emergency. You know, I value the doctors that we have. But when some of them are telling you things that they don't know anything about,
Yeah, I agree.
We've got to take this into our own hands, right? Our health is into our own hands.
It is. And there's some really good doctors out there. When it comes to internal medicine, oncology,
Right.
the treatment of disease, unfortunately, most of these doctors that people, if whatever their health insurance covers, or, you know, whatever they can find, they typically, they don't know anything about nutrition. They don't know anything about herbalism or even supplements and ways that people could heal in a better way. They're trained in things like surgery, medication, pharmaceutical medication, you know, these very kind of strong treatments, strong ways to approach the body. And for me, those should be the last resort. You know, those should be the absolute last resort. That's unless, of course, it's an acute condition, like you're saying, you had an accident, you had an injury, then yes, you know, you want immediate attention and some good hands-on healing. But when it comes to disease and internal medicine, most of them just really aren't trained in healing. They're trained in disease management, and disease management through the use of surgery or chemicals, pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, and all of us have seen those commercials where, hey, take this, but you have these symptoms that are even worse afterwards. I'm not sure how that all works, but I know that I do trust eating well for myself, exercising every day. I do the Wim Hof breathing. I did an interview with a woman on breathing last week. It was really, really good. Okay, here's another one, probiotics usage. A lot of people, I actually read one of your testimonials. A woman said she healed with you. It was wonderful. But she said she thought she was doing everything right. You know, she was taking the probiotics. Recently, I just learned that probiotics really aren't the way to go. Is that, what do you think about that?
Oh, I think that it's, if you're trying to get your probiotics from a capsule or a liquid, most people aren't going to get much out of it. First, they need to clean up their gut health. They need to get that in better working order. So doing some, you know, changing of the diet, detoxification, whatever you need to get your gut in better order, to get your, you know, digestive abilities. So just swallowing some probiotic pills will not heal your gut problems. It might put a tiny little impact in there. I'm more of an advocate of eating your probiotics. So getting it as a living food, such as naturally fermented foods that have not been pasteurized or heated, such as, say, sauerkraut, kimchi. I'm not a promoter of dairy for anybody. It's an inflammatory, mucus creating food. So yogurts and kefirs, I tend to recommend those if you can find them as like a nut based or a coconut based yogurt or kefir, as far as a probiotic food. Miso, as long as you don't simmer or heat your miso, you just add the paste to hot water. All of these things, they much more bioavailable, and they get activated in the gut much better than if you're swallowing a pill. There is a company I really like, their probiotic supplements, and they're one of the few ones out there that I recommend, and I've seen them to be healing, very, very healing.
Wow.
And it's a company called Microbiome, and they make a probiotic called Mega Spore Biotic. And they also have an animal version. It's called Phytospore. But the Mega Spore Biotic, it also helps create antioxidants in the body. And it's using a different technology than your more classical probiotic supplements, and has a much better ability to populate the gut with good probiotic life. So there is that one. But other than that, there's not many that I would recommend people take. Just eat it. And if you looked at, like, I've done some research on traditional diets and cultures, ancient cultures. If you look into like Weston Price's research, who was this dentist who traveled the world trying to find the perfect diet and the perfect healthy culture. And what he found time and time again, as he traveled to and studied and learned about ancient cultures all over the world, traditional cultures from Native Americans to the Okinawa in Japan to Europe and all these places, is that across the board, almost all of them, when they ate, no matter what they ate, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, had a little bit of a probiotic food, such as the yogurts or the sauerkrauts, or some kind of fermented drink of some kind. They didn't need a heaping plate of it, but just like a little bit. And that, in his research, he found that it assisted with the absorption of minerals in the body, and it led to greater bone strength, greater immune health, greater brain health, greater dental health, and they just had better gut health too. So it's a really good thing, and that's kind of programmed, I think, into our DNA, into all of us from our ancestry. And so I think our body responds really well, much better than swallowing a handful of capsules all day long.
Right. Oh, this has been, you have introduced a lot of goodies for our listeners, and I really appreciate it. I know you've got to go, but do you have any special things coming up, and just a little anything on detox? I noticed on your website, it's very clear you've got some different types of 3-day detox to something a little more involved. Can you expand on that and share with the group where they can find you?
Yeah. Okay. So I have a detox program. I have a couple, but my main one that a lot of people sign up for and have done, and I've been leading people in this in person and virtually for about 15 years. And I drew from a number of different places as far as my inspiration to create this cleanse. And it's a full body cleanse that takes place over 3 weeks. So there's 3 phases to it. It takes place over 3 weeks. And I designed it that way to take a little more time so that people don't have to skip school, work, parenting, whatever it is they're doing on a daily basis. They keep doing it. It's designed to gradually go over that time, so it doesn't just knock them out, and have kind of strong reactions that can happen when you do a really intensive cleanse. And so that one, like I said, it's 3 weeks, 3 phases. I have brought so many people through that cleanse, someone who just wants to upgrade their health, someone who wants to lose some weight. If you're struggling with losing weight, I would say almost anybody in that category tends to lose anywhere from 5 to 15 pounds doing this cleanse without any serious dieting. It's just kind of the body's natural response is to drop unnecessary weight. Now, if you're really thin, you're not going to lose weight. It's just what your body needs. It starts to kick your body into gear as far as what it needs to gain wellness. So that one's called the Full Body Cleanse. That's on my website, which is just my name, Zahrah Sita, ZahrahSita.com. And you can just go to, there's a page that's called the cleanse page, and it has all that information. And anyone who does that cleanse, I also have a private group on Facebook that people who want to be a part of that can be a part of that. And that has all kinds of recipes for when you're cleansing and afterwards. It's, I have people actually in that group that have never done my cleanse, but they really like the information. Yeah. And so that's available for them. There's recipes, there's all kinds of different topic sections on different topics, everything from liver health, colon health, heavy metals, cleansing reactions, how to have a healthy home, cleaning products, etc. It's more of like an an education base for people and a support for anyone doing the cleanse or just wanting to upgrade their health. And I'm very passionate about it because I see people's lives changed all the time. I have actually a section in that group of testimonials and before and after photos. And it's super inspiring to see people shift their lives, not just physically, because when they start to cleanse and heal their bodies, their mind gets upgraded, their emotions get upgraded, their perspective, their mindset, their feelings. And what I see is they start to manifest their dreams and goals quicker. And so for a very holistic reason, I am very much a big proponent of cleansing, to keep our bodies healthy and well, but also to keep our minds and hearts happy and well.
You know, it seems that if you keep the gut healthy and clear, then the mind is going to follow. I found out that the gut is actually ruling the brain.
Yeah,
I just recently found that out. So if the gut is feeling good, of course, you're going to get more creative, and the law of attraction, you're going to manifest things. Wow.
Yeah,
right.
That 70% of our serotonin production happens in the gut. And just real quick, as I'm also a neurofeedback practitioner.
Right.
So I work with people's brain waves and their brain health, helping them bring balance to their brain waves. And so one of the things that in the clinic that I've been practicing in is we take people through some blood testing. We check their metabolics, we check inflammation, we check allergies, all these different things. And we typically then guide them on a gut healing diet and certain supplementation, whatever they might personally need. Because the truth is, the neurofeedback is only going to work so well if the gut is on board. If there's a ton of inflammation and mucus and poor gut health, it's going to affect the brain. And then, they might only get half of what they normally would out of the neurofeedback training. And so by cleaning up the gut, we have much better success at helping them heal their brains. And so, yeah, it's very connected. Happy gut, happy head.
Yeah. Happy gut, happy head. That should be a song, huh? Happy gut. Oh, I love this. I love this. So people can find you at zahrahsita.com. I will put that, everybody, in down below when I put this on YouTube. So don't worry, it'll be right there where you can go. And like I said, her navigation bar is easy. Just click on whatever you want. Detox, the cleansing. It's all explained right there. Do you have any upcoming events or anything that you would like to promote right now? Or
At the moment, no. I do help host a couple retreats each year, and we do have one coming up probably within the next couple of months, but I just don't have the dates or even the location to announce that yet. But so my name, which is my website, Zahrah Sita, it's pretty much the same across the board on social media. And I will announce any events, retreats, classes, talks, things like that on my social media accounts. So Facebook, Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter. I'm on Telegram, a few other places, but it's always the same, Zahrah Sita, except for I also have two Instagram accounts. One is just mine, Zahrah Sita, and then the other one that goes with my cleanse program is called Love Body Detox. Ooh. And so you can find both of those there.
Love the body. I totally get that. So one last thing then, in regards to the COVID stuff we've got going on, and there's so much going around it. If people are feeling low or depressed or get it or whatever, what would you suggest that they do nutritionally, maybe, or whatever, for themselves? What would you
okay,
suggest?
so some of the best things that you can be doing for prevention, and some of this is, I would say, for treatment of COVID as well, is you want to be doing vitamin D every day. So low vitamin D levels have been linked to the susceptibility to a viral infection, not just COVID, any viral infection. And so, and not just viral infections, cancers and other things, it can weaken the immune system. So you want to make sure that your vitamin D levels are good. Getting out in the sunshine often, at least, if you're getting 15, 20 minutes of sunshine on your skin every day, that's a great way. Taking a vitamin D3 supplement, just make sure that your vitamin D3 supplement includes K2, and that really helps your body absorb it well and protects your bones, and it just works more synergistically. So having vitamin D, also zinc and vitamin C, and quercetin It's a very natural, inexpensive supplement, quercetin, Quercitin. And so if you were taking zinc, quercetin, C, and D every day, that's a great way to start protecting yourself and making sure that your immune system is in a good place and hopefully keeping you from getting any viral infection. Now, if you feel like you've gotten hit, whether it's COVID or not, and you're just feeling weak, maybe picked up something, maybe it's a cold, maybe it is COVID, then definitely up your doses of the D, the C, the zinc, and the quercetin. And there's a lot of great things you can add. Speaking of COVID in particular, it's shown that using melatonin, even just 3 to 5 milligrams of melatonin daily, can disrupt how COVID progresses in the body and helps kick it out quicker. Propolis is another great one for using if there's a COVID infection. Resveratrol, as well as cat's claw, L-lysine, and golden seal. These are all great antivirals that can be employed and have shown to have some use specifically against COVID. And just if you have, antivirals and immune boosters that work well for you, that's the time to pull them in. I love making really fresh, really strong ginger tea from the ginger root, which is a strong antiviral, helps bring down inflammation and clears up the lungs, boosts your health. Turmeric, raw garlic, these are things you might just have in your cupboards, but they're cheap and super, super useful at keeping you healthy and getting you better. Now, when it comes to nutrition, if you are feeling under the weather of anything, you don't want to be eating meat, dairy, eggs, things that are dense and building, nuts, things like that. You want to go more like juices, coconut water, leafy green salads, fruits. Fruits help wipe out or help clean out the lymphatic system, which you want that to be working well if you are sick with anything. So broths, also seaweeds. I would also add seaweeds. That reminds me, prevention and treatment regarding to COVID and other viral infections is food grade iodine. Having that on a daily basis is a really, really good idea. So all of those things are my recommendations. If you are sick with COVID, there's other things you can do to decrease your pain, doing a coffee enema, doing a detox bath, drinking juices all day long, resting, getting sunshine and fresh air. It doesn't have to be a big deal. If you haven't had COVID yet, just understand that for most people, it really isn't as bad as the media has put it out there. Yes, there have been people who've been sick, who've had long haul COVID. There's been people who've died. What you don't hear about is that type of stuff happens with flus and colds and all kinds of other stuff every year, because it's going to affect people who have weakened immune systems differently. But if you really work on building your immune system up and staying healthy and eating right, it's going to be less for you if you do get it. And just remember that most people are going to recover just fine. And so just get to know those different things that you can use to boost your immune system and work against viruses.
We might just we're going to have you back on. Not just, we're going to have you back on, as well as a couple of others, I think, in our Patreon channel, because I think people are going to really want to dig deep with what you've given them today. This is not a joke, people. This is not a joke. I think today, more than ever, we've been really kind of just sitting by, allowing things to happen around us, our environment going to pot, our food being transformed into, I don't know what, garbage. And our body wasn't meant for that, right, Zarhrah? It's just not meant for those things. And so to put us back on track, we're going to have to go deeper and let folks know that by taking this into their own hands, they can, as we say in WonHeart, start a change reaction. When people see that you look different, the bags are gone, you have more energy than they do while they're sipping their bull, I'm just saying. They're going to ask you why. And that's where, you're being the change. And that's what we need to do. Zarhrah, it's been such a pleasure to have you so much. Thank you for coming on today. And anybody who wants to visit her site, again, it is
ZahrahSita.com. And I spell Zahrah Zahrah. Sita is Sita.com.
I'm sure there's a story behind that too, the name. But
Yeah.
I'm going to let you go. I know you've got a busy schedule. Thank you for taking your time today. Again, everyone, go to oneheartinfo.org, sign up for our email, because if I bring Zahrah back on, she's going to want to help as many people as possible, I'm sure, and get you started on the right track to healing. Again, our Patreon channel, WonHeart TV, and you can also see all our other videos on WonHeart TV YouTube channel. Well, peace to you all, love to you all, and I say stay happy. Stay
Definitely.
happy, man, in this time.
Very
All right.
happy.
Bye, y'all. We'll see you soon. Until next time.